Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone. My name is Doug Kripe. I am the senior scientist at the GEOSS Secretariat, and I'd like to welcome you to this parallel session on the GEOSS platform, and we're going to have a couple of presentations on its current status and projected evolution. We have two speakers lined up, Stefano Nativi and Joost van Bemmelen. Our first presentation is going to be provided by Stefano Nativi, who is the big data lead scientist of the Joint Research Center of the European Commission. He's also a co-chair of the GEOSS Development Task Team and of the Data Ethics Law Policy Subgroup of the Data Working Group. And he has also funded and chaired Earth and Space Science Informatics Division of European Geosciences Union. And he's a member of the Council of the International Society for Digital Earth, associate editor of Big Earth Journal, and co-editor of the Artificial Intelligence section of the Remote Sensing Journal. He is the JRC contact point for information technology. And he's also a co-chair of the Open Geospatial Consortium Earth Systems Science Domain Working Group. He was the head of the Unit for National Research Council of Italy and a professor at the University of Padua, Florence, and Friedrich Schiller in Jena. So I am very pleased to welcome Stefano to go ahead and take over and give us your presentation on the GEOSS platform and its evolution.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you very much. And yeah, I think that Paula, you have to advance the presentation. Yeah, okay. This is the slide. Thank you. Thank you very much. So I'm going to present GEOSS, the GEOSS progress in terms of advancements and the plans for evolving the GEOSS, as I try to cover, moving from a federated system to something which may be defined today a digital ecosystem. The next one, please. Thank you. So let me start with a very important principle here that at least at the GIDTT, at the level of the GEOSS infrastructure development task team, we stress we have to be user-driven, and as we know very well, all of us, we know that 80% of time spent by users have been mainly, devoted to find, collect, and harmonize data. And only 20%, unfortunately, are even today presently devoted to analyze those data and generate knowledge and actionable intelligence. So still, I mean, this is an important goal for us. And when we talk about users who are the GEOSS, users, this is another very well-known topic. Well, certainly are, scientific experts, but the final user, the final goal here is to provide knowledge to the decision makers. And also data providers, as well as other digital resources providers, such as analytical tools and software, must also be considered as GEOSS user. The next one, please. Okay, so I mean, this is one important principle that we have to bear in our mind. Another important, a point, another important principle here is that GEOSS is a system of systems, so aims to link, together a set of coordinate independent Earth observation, not only information and data system, but also processing system. This is another important point. And the final goal here is to generate knowledge and actionable intelligence for the decision makers. And this must be done by embracing a new paradigm, because we live today in a digitally transformed society. And of course, EO and geospatial sectors being important part of this society, they also change. And here there are four important changes to be considered, that we have considered when we plan the next GEOS development. And it is this paradigm shift, so not anymore, combine on-premise systems doing most of the processing and exchanging data. So, I mean, interoperability so far has been implemented largely by exchanging data, but today we know that the network is the place where most of the physical capacities have been moved. So we live in a so-called, cyber physical world. And so we have to embrace a new paradigm. And this paradigm means that we use the network, not just to exchange data, but also to find and use all the code, all the analytical and computing capacities that are required in order to generate knowledge. So this is a key and important point. The other changes are, of course, that we move from global to local in order to reach to decision maker, and of course vice versa, and bring their needs to the geo level, the geo level, sorry. Then the capacities, as I said, have been virtualized, in particular computing and storage, and here private platforms are prominent, so they are more and more present also in GEOS. And finally, we have a new component in the GEOS family, which is the Geo Knowledge Hub, and we have to integrate, of course, this with the GEOS platform. The next one, please. Okay, these changes, of course, have happened in the last, years, and they also push another change of the GEOS environment, which used to be a federated system largely, but today, due to these changes, may be considered more and more a digital ecosystem. What does it mean? It means that there are autonomous systems which collaborate every time they find a common goal, but not always. And this is positive, of course, but also raises some challenges, in particular governance challenges. And according to our studies, we need to change the past governance. And here we have three main possible ways. We started here from the governance side. In 2016, we made a similar, reflection, but starting from the technological and resources provision side. And we called this three option the bronze, the silver, and the golden ways, and today we can call it from the governance side the virtual, the collaborative, and the fully directed ways. In the virtual governance style, we don't govern this digital ecosystem, which certainly implies that we don't have to devote much resources in terms of money and in kind, resources, but certainly it is risky, because the main risk here is the balkanization of GEOS. The silver, or the collaborative governance style, that basically means that we govern, but in a very smooth way. So there is no need to devote a large amount of resources, but certainly there is a need to come up with a common set of principles and a common value here. And finally, the golden one, it is called golden because GEO is requested, GEO members are requested to devote a certain consistent, amount of resources. On the other side, there is a full control, a centralized control of the system of systems. The next one, please. We envision a silver or a collaborative approach, and I showed this schema several times. This is a logical or conceptual schema where you can recognize all the components and all the main actors that I mentioned before. So you have, for instance, the regional GEO, and they are the instrument in order to engage with the local, data hub, but also code hubs, knowledge bodies, etc. Then there is the GEOSS platform with the usual operational components, plus the knowledge hub, which hopefully will become operational soon. And then, of course, the flagship and the other apps. And outside this GEO ecosystem, or outside, but also, contributing, there are the so-called private and public virtual service platforms, such as clouds or cubes, etc. The next one, please. So the challenge here is, how to integrate and govern these heterogeneous and largely autonomous set of systems, and a possible way here is to develop this digital ecosystem based on a virtual platform underpinned by a multi-cloud environment where the constituent or enterprise components are, of course, regional GEO, the virtual services platform, the many cubes, the other dedicated system or data system. So this is a possible way where we can set up a common value just in the framework of GEO, and so combine all of these components only for the scope and for the common good decided into GEO. And the aim here, what actually could be this common good, could be to implement a set of digital ecosystem functionalities such as discovery and access knowledge, as well as other digital resources, data, analytical, software and tools, workflows, then to provide the services and the platform, the virtual platform, where to combine and orchestrate these resources, and finally also a place where, a virtual, of course, place where to find the computing and storage scaling capabilities. The next one, please. Then, of course, in order to understand how feasible and how effective this possible development would be, we have to use pilots. We have used, of course, pilots in the past years in order to engage with the whole community, in order to assess some of these architectural features, but not only technological features, but also governance features. And in particular here, in the past couple of years, there have been implemented pilots by AmeriGeo, so by regional GEO, as well as EuroGeo and others, Africa GEO, etc., but also projects such as EU H2020 pilots developed by EDGE, NextGeos, eShape, etc. This year, OGC launched the disaster pilot 2021, and of course also others such as ASIC pilots have been instrumental in order to conceive this possible GEOSS evolution. Finally, we have also in mind to implement one or two use cases in order to to test the Geo Knowledge Hub and the GEOSS Platform integration. The next one, please. So I started with the user needs. And so let me also, show these slides saying that, this OGC 2021 disaster pilot is going to use many capacities, including the GEOSS platform, AmeriGeo, and hopefully other regional geo, in order to address the existing gaps that we discussed before and remove existing barriers. Next one. So, few possible conclusion. GEOSS continues to be a core objective of GEO, but certainly it must change in order to embrace this paradigm shift and a digital transform society where capacities are more and more virtual and less physical. In order to do that, we have to rethink the present federation approach and go more towards a digital ecosystem, so something which is, leaving the system more autonomous. But on the other side, we have to develop a governance, a different governance, in order to define common goals, common principles, and even some common interoperability traits in order to implement this ecosystem. And in order to do that, we have to develop new innovative control and communication instruments. And I've finished. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Stefano, for that overview of GEOSS and plans on how it can evolve. Before we go on, maybe I'll just take one question. There's one question here from Thierry Ranchin that has appeared in the chat. He says, before talking about governance, there's maybe a need to revisit the objectives of the GEOSS infrastructure and the user's needs. Is there any study on the users of GEOSS infrastructure? Stefano talked about scientific users and knowledge for decision makers. Do we have an analysis of their needs? Stefano?
Yeah, no. Thank you, Thierry, for this question. Indeed, at the GIDTT level, it was launched a study about user needs and possible use cases. And ESA, actually, GEOSS is connected here, was leading this joint joint study, and hopefully we will really soon. But I know that your colleague Thierry is part of this effort. So you should have easily access to the draft of this document. Thank you.
Maybe to add to what Stefano was saying, indeed, we were conducting a project called EDGE, which was an EDGE 2020 financed activity, actually. And in there, we had a user-centric approach. So we involved quite some user communities to understand what their actual requirements were for evolving the GEOSS at large, and the GEOSS platform in particular. So yes, there is quite some, let's say, information available, and I will show at the end of my presentation actually a link where you can have access to all.
Great. Okay, thanks. So let's go ahead and go to Joost's presentation. I'd like to just introduce you to Joost van Bemmelen, who is a project manager at the European Space Agency. He has extensive experience in the area of ground and user segments, over 20 years experience in the domain of big Earth observation data exploitation. He has experience particularly in Europe with not only the European Space Agency, but also the Commission and UN bodies, as well as NATO. He's currently responsible for innovation technology development, as well as development of GEOSS, as he's going to tell us here, and long-term data preservation evolution program activities. So, Joost, please take it away and tell us about the GEOSS platform and progress.
Thank you, Doug. It's a pleasure, let's say, as well to present today here. I'm providing this presentation actually on behalf of GPOT, and as you all know, GPOT stands for the GEOSS Platform Operations Team, which actually is again a subgroup of the GIDTT, so the GEOSS Infrastructure Development Task Team. Next slide, please. So indeed, I'm going to present the progress and plans regarding GEOSS platform. So what we all know, of course, GEOSS stands for the Global Earth Observation System of Systems, and this is actually the first concrete response for global environmental change. And we're doing this, let's say, under GEOSS is implemented under the umbrella of some identified geo engagement areas, and the three, let's say, that we currently have, but this may evolve in the future, of course, are the disaster risk reduction, climate change, and sustainable development goals. And if we go on, we see that actually the GEOSS platform is a core element in GEOSS, connecting the different systems with each other globally, and as well providing access to all these systems, let's say, to users. Next, please. And as well, these users are all globally. So what are the components then of this GEOSS platform? One of the components is the GEOSS portal. This is implemented and operated by ESA, and this is the front end. We have the discovery and access broker, which is part of the middleware, which is implemented and operated by CNR. We have the GEOSS status checker, which is implemented and operated by FGDC, the US contribution, and the fourth component is the GEOSS Yellow Pages, implemented and operated by the University of Geneva. And altogether, let's say these components are enabling or facilitating discovery access, and we are working as well towards use of data, information, knowledge services systems platform from all over the globe. Next, please. So if we put this, if you go to the next slide, if we put this in a context, as I mentioned, the GEOSS portal is the front end. Now we go too quick. It's the front end, let's say, providing users access to, let's say, the different systems via the GEO DAB, which, as I mentioned before, is the middleware. And the GEOSS status checker is providing actually health information regarding the resources that are being made available by the different resource providers. And then the GEOSS Yellow Pages provide information actually regarding these GEOSS providers, resource providers. Access actually to the GEOSS portal can be done directly. I will give you the link later, or you just go to the GEO website. Next, please. Quickly, and if you just immediately go on, information regarding the GEOSS platform journey. If you just click a couple of times, you will see that there will appear an arrow. In 2005, actually, the idea was born of GEO and as well the idea of GEOSS. Then in 2005, there was the birth of the GCI. Most of you will maybe still know the term GCI, which stands for GEOSS Common Infrastructure, and this was implemented at that time as a clearinghouse catalog. Then in 2010, ESA was selected as the GEOSS portal provider, so we had the first version of the GEOSS portal. 2012, then the GEO DAB was introduced. And you will see, as you will look as well at the top, from that moment on, you will see that there is an exponential growth actually of resource providers that are being, let's say, connected to the GEOSS common infrastructure. Then 2016, we actually introduced a new GEOSS portal, and you will see that there is an exponential growth still of, let's say, resource being provided. In 2018, then actually we transformed, or we actually changed the name of GCI into GEOSS platform. And there we as well recognized that we had to move towards a user-centric approach. So in the beginning, let's say the approach within the GEOSS common infrastructure was very data-oriented, but we have seen that the user-centric approach was a much better way to evolve it. And actually what you see as well is that from that moment on, we started introducing additional features like views, mirrors, widgets. What I show here as well is that we organized as well in the time frame 2016, 2018, more or less, 3 data provider workshops. The first one in St. Petersburg, second one in Florence, and the third one in Frascati, Esrin, is located over there. And you see that because of this involvement of data providers, where we connect them with users, there was a very big interest in having more resources registered. Yes, please, next one. So what I already mentioned is that indeed we adopted an approach which we could refer to as user centrality. So this is a driver actually for evolving the GEOSS platform activities. And under, let's say, this project, what I referred to already before, called EDGE, which stands for European Direction in GEOSS, at that moment still Common Infrastructure Evolutions, we actually implemented some 40 scenarios, and we derived some 100 requirements based on the interaction we had with the different communities. And if you click immediately a couple of times, 2 times at least, then you will see that we already considered quite some GEOSS work program activities that we linked via the GEOSS portal, and in particular a couple of GEO flagships, GEO initiatives, but also GEO community activities, the ones which are mentioned on the slide. But besides GEO activities, we also considered other activities. Okay, I forgot to mention the regional GEOSs, so also, let's say, link them. In particular, we had some good collaboration with Ameri GEO, and we as well had some implementation of activities related to AO GEO, and we also looked at Euro GEO. But we also considered Copernicus services, ESA exploitation platforms, and we as well linked different Horizon 2020 projects, in particular Ecopotential and different ERA planets like SMERPS and GeoEssential. And I will come back to some of these activities later on. Anyway, we address different thematic areas, which are mentioned at the right lower side, like public health, surveillance, water resource management, sustainable urban development, etc., etc. So what I would like to say is that we address quite a large set of domains within the GEOSS platform, showing actually as well the genericity. It's a very generic approach that we follow over there, even if we can as well customize, and I will come back to that as well later on, let's say, the implementation of the GEOSS platform to, let's say, the different communities. Anyways, different of these scenarios are implemented on the operational platforms, and others are actually implemented as proofs of concepts. Next slide, please. So another driver for evolution activities was actually that we would like to, what I just mentioned before, reuse of what is already available and have customized this and collaborate, of course, with the different user communities. So we introduced different instruments as part of the GEOSS platform, and one of those are GEOSS APIs, and these are used for, in particular, machine-to-machine interaction. So from different infrastructures, you can immediately interface with GEO DAB and let's say benefit from GEOSS platform capabilities. We have GEOSS mirrors, which are particularly of interest to communities which do not yet have a portal themselves and can copy paste more or less the GEOSS portal itself and customize it to their use. We do have as well widgets. Next, please. GEOSS widgets, which are of particular interest for, let's say, developers which already do have portals, or communities which already do have portals, but which would like to benefit anyway from access and capabilities of the GEOSS platform. And we do have GEOSS views via which we can direct the different communities directly to a certain subset of data, services, information, etc., whatever is available via the GEOSS platform. Next one, please. And immediately next one, because this is more or less the same as we had before, what I wanted to stress here is actually that indeed one of the capabilities or different of the relevant capabilities of the GEOSS platform are exportability and customizability. So the four different instruments mentioned enable the application developers and the different communities to exploit, let's say, the GEOSS capabilities and resources, let's say, customized to the different communities. So in summary, the GEOSS platform, let's say, is a unique web-based access point via which you can discover and access different data and let's say services already, let's say, in the context of the prototypes, let's say this way. And let's see, we do already connect 193 open data catalogs, and let's say we should not forget, it looks like it's not that much, that behind these 193 open data catalogs, there are many more organizations. So there's many more data providers in total that we actually connect to. Out of these data providers, there's about 35 satellite data sources. We have 83 non-satellite data sources, and in there we do as well address in situ data. And we have quite a number, 74, of mixed data sources. In total, we have more than 45 million data sets and over 400 million granules, which are discoverable. And quite some of them are as well accessible, but this of course depends actually on, let's say, if the providers actually do make them available. We do have quite some advanced functionality implemented. I referred already to the views. We as well provide bulk download, we provide data transformation, advanced filtering, and we can as well display layers with legends on the map. And you see an example on the right side where you see earthquakes. And in Indonesia, I mean, it's not that big maybe, but you see actually via particular icons, let's say, where these are, and you can see as well, let's say, the level of significance. We do support interactions with humans, but as well with machines. We do have configurable query results ranking. We collect usage statistics, and I will come back to that later as well. And what is as well important to mention is that it's a rather scalable, let's say, implementation with deployment on an elastic cloud with, for high performance and high availability. And we do as well, let's say, provide users with the possibility to provide feedback implemented via what we call GEO-like. And there is as well portal feedback on the website itself. Next, please. So heterogeneity is, again, one of the capabilities of the platform, allowing to navigate, let's say, data across very different organizations and as well very different heterogeneous infrastructures. Next, please. And what I mentioned regarding, let's say, these earthquakes, the example on the right side, as well, typicality or customizability is something that we expose via the platform, and this can be either theme related, but it can as well be source related, like satellites, for satellites, particular satellites like Landsat, Sentinel-1, Sentinel-2, with particular filtering and visualization capabilities. Next, please. Immediately next. So regarding the proofs of concepts, there we focused indeed not only on access to and discovery of data, but as well on discovery, access and use of data, information and services. And we already connect the different cloud platforms, in particular Copernicus GEOSS, but also to Amazon Web Services. And a particular example that we can elaborate a bit on the next slide regards Sustainable Development Goal 15.3.1, which is the indicator of the proportion of land that is degraded over a total land area. And we implemented that example in collaboration with the GeoEssential H2020 project. Next, please. And I show that actually here. I don't want to elaborate too much on that, but what we show here is actually that we have implemented an example together, of course, with the GeoEssential project, in which we can combine different sub-indicators, in this case, land functionality dynamics, or land productivity dynamics, land cover change, and soil organic carbon stocks. And based on those three, we can, let's say, derive the actual indicator. And this can all be accessed via, let's say, a series of scenarios that are accessible, for which I will provide you the results later on. Anyway, these are calculated or computed on a computing platform. And indeed, let's say, we show that the capabilities, further capabilities of the GEOSS platform are the heterogeneity and consumability, enabling users to discover, access, and use not only data, but as well other types of resources. And we can as well, let's say, navigate. If you click another time, I think we can as well navigate across, let's say, the different data, information, and knowledge packages. And indeed, this way we as well provide, let's say, the possibility to generate or facilitate knowledge. Next, please. Immediately next one, because I think I addressed that one already. So yeah, maybe the yellow arrow before, but please stay here. The yellow arrow before said is that we presented all those results, of course, to the GIDDT for uptake for further evolution, of course. Here I show again actually performance stats regarding the GEO DAB. I showed it already before, so maybe next immediately. So we show, let's say, that we do already have 197, and next as well, 197 resources, or here it says 193, let's say, data sources registered in the DAB, and we have already more than 90 protocols implemented to interoperate with data sources, and these include web services and web APIs. What we see here as well is, which can be seen on the right side, is that we have quite a large chunk of public or non-governmental organizations that are linked. We do have already some private organizations linked. We have some government organizations linked and academic organizations linked. What you see here as well is after we had, let's say, stopped with the data provider workshops, there was actually a kind of a degrade in, let's say, growth in organizations that, let's say, were registered. Not only because of, let's say, that we stopped with this data provider workshops, but also because there was no longer support, let's say, or not support, but there was no involvement of the GEOSS Secretariat, so there was less visibility actually of the GEOSS platform activities. So what we really, let's say, would like to advocate is that we should restart, let's say, with the GEOSS data provider workshops, and as well we welcome, and this has been already agreed, I believe, let's say again, that there is a GeoSec staff on board again in supporting the activities. And next, please. These are some performance stats regarding the GEOSS portal. You can see actually on the left side the top 10 geolocation per month of access to the GEOSS portal between 2017 and 2020. And you can see that there is a large interest in the Americas, or in America, North America, in the USA itself, in Europe, in China, there is a large interest. but what you can see as well is it's quite well spread for the rest around the world. You see a bit of degrade, let's say in access, going to the right a bit, but that was because, or that is because of the reason what I mentioned before. Next, yes, please. Then, yes, please click a couple of times so we show everything. What we are doing, let's say, now the last months, we started to reinforce, to strengthen the connections with the GEOSS work program activities. And for that, we're doing an analysis of the GEOSS work program, looking at which data and services, let's say, used by these GEOSS work program activities already registered within the GEOSS platform, and which of the data and services produced by these GEOSS work program activities are already registered. And we as well, let's say, consider during this analysis actually challenges of, in particular, in situ data sharing, and we try to address those. So this activity is ongoing, and this should stop the first phase actually in September 2021, after which we would like to have bilateral meetings with the different GEO work program activities to better understand, let's say, how we can further improve, let's say, the connection between the GEOSS platform and these GEOSS work program activities, and in particular the three pilots we'd like to start with are the Global Human Planet Initiative, the Global Observation System for Mercury, and the Global Wildfire Information System. Next, please. So this, I think, is my last, or one but last slide. So our plans can be seen over here. So we would like to continue with our, let's say, user-centric approach, responding to evolving user needs. We would like to continue, of course, with onboarding new users and new resource providers in the platform. We want to strengthen the connection between the GEOSS platform and the GEO work program activities, what I mentioned before. And of course, we as well would like to strengthen the platform role in GEOSS, responding to GEO engagement areas. And let's say, just to, if we just go back one slide, sorry for that. We like to re-establish what I mentioned already, let's say, the GEO data provider workshops, user engagement area activities. In particular, we would like to re-establish community workshops together with the GEOSS Secretariat, and as well the GEOSS Secretariat support to GEOSS platform operations. And finally, of course, we'd like to promote all the activities that we are doing. Then we go to the last slide, I think, and the last slide provides you with links where you can, of course, access the GEOSS platform, and where you can find as well the proofs of concepts presentations, let's say, that we have implemented either via the hamburger button in the GEOSS portal itself, or directly via the link that is presented over there. And you will see that there we present, let's say, these proofs of concepts from two different perspectives. And I referred already to documentation that is available. That's the last link. And I'd like to thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joost, for that comprehensive overview of the GEOSS platform and the progress that's been made. Indeed, there's been a lot of changes over the years, and I think the advent of the Discovery and Access Broker really moved things along very, very, very quickly. So now I'd like to open the floor to questions. If you've got a question, please feel free to put it in the chat. So it looks as though we have a question here from Siri Joda. He says, does there exist, or is there planned any coordination with the GEO Knowledge Hub on the GEO activities that knowledge packages are being developed for, and those the GEOSS platform plans to work with? So for those of you who may not be aware of what the Knowledge Hub is, the GEO Knowledge Hub is a digital library, digital repository of all of the components that go into an application of Earth, using Earth observations to address some societal challenge. And by what I mean by all of the knowledge resources, I mean everything from papers that talk about methodology that's being used to actual coding that might have been used in the development of the application, the data sets that were used, results, and all of this in an open science context, so that someone can come to the Knowledge Hub and say, I'd like to do land classification. How do I do that? So you'd find a knowledge package that explains how this has been done perhaps in Brazil. And then you would be able to understand, reproduce it, and then adapt it to your particular situation. So, and as you'll see in the chat window here, there is a spotlight session coming up at the top of the hour on the Knowledge Hub itself. So now back to the question. The question is, how is the coordination happening between the Knowledge Hub that is taking applications from GEO activities, GEO work program activities, and those that are being looked at, developed within the GEOSS platform? Let's see, maybe either Stefano or Joost, who would like to answer that?
Yeah, I see. Okay, I can start, and then maybe I see also Paula. Maybe Paula also wants to say something. But anyway, yeah, no, indeed. I mean, Siri Joda, this is a very good point. And as I said, this is one of the aims of the development of the next, development of GEOS. And indeed, I mean, the Geo Knowledge Hub is providing, as Doug said, new opportunities, new functionality. So the idea started in the GIDTT, and this is why I also mentioned Paula here, is to set up one or I mean, hopefully a couple of use cases in order to test, how to connect these capabilities, these functionalities provided by the platform and by the Geo Knowledge Hub. And this is perfectly, part of this digital ecosystem approach where you combine, functionalities and capacities when there is a common interest. And of course, I mean, here, the study is to take one geo use case. So this is the common interest, the user needs, let's say, and see how, these two synergetic, components can work together. I stop here. I cannot hear you, Doug. I think you are
on mute, Doug.
Sorry, I was on mute. So Paula, if you have something you'd like to add?
Yes, thank you, Doug, and thank you, Siri Joda, for your question. Indeed, there's been a coordination on the choice of the three GEO work program activities that Jost mentioned in his presentation. For the human planet, we've been starting to work with them and already registered part or, yes, one of their knowledge packages. The same, it is happening with the GOS4M, and equally for the global wildfire information system. So the coordination is existing, and we are addressing the same GEO program activities to make sure that then this connection between the GEOS portal and the Geo Knowledge App happens on a real case scenario, as Stefano mentioned.
Okay, thanks. Joost, anything to add?
No, I think that what Paula mentioned and also what, let's say, Stefano mentioned is a very complete response, actually. I think that, I mean, there is, let's say, good collaboration today, in particular, again, with the GEOSS Secretariat, what I mentioned before, I think that this should, let's say, continue as well in the future. I think that's the basis as well for integrating, let's say, the GEOSS Knowledge Hub together with the GEOSS platform. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. We have another question that's been put in the chat window. This comes from Eva Ivitz. A quick search on the GEOSS platform shows that the Copernicus land monitoring service data sets are not available there. Is there a reason for that? So let's see, who would like to take that one?
I can take that one. No, I know that, let's say, the different Copernicus services are registered. Not all the data sets will be available via the GEOSS platform itself. This is because, let's say, this really depends on, let's say, what is being made available by the individual services. If, let's say, there is a representative here today that let's say, can facilitate further, let's say, registration of particular data sets, then we are completely open to look into that and broker, let's say, whatever is missing. No? So what I said is that we have registered the different services. So you can easily go to the service itself, at least, but it doesn't mean that we do have all the data as such registered, even if that, of course, is as well a possibility.
Stefano?
Yeah, thank you. Well, indeed, I mean, I think that this is what GEOSS, you know, intended when he mentioned it is time to, you know, reconvene the data provided, but also users, of course, of GEOSS. Unfortunately, due to the COVID, because clearly, I mean, this was already part of our plan, but due to the COVID, we couldn't do it. But certainly, this annual meeting is important. It is important to, you know, engage with missing a community, with you know, listen to already engaged communities, and to get these user needs and feedbacks that also Thierry, you know, mentioned. So please, if you are engaged, or if you can, you know, provide what is missing, please contact GEOSS and the GPOT people, because this is the kind of help that, you know, GEOSS needs.
Great, thank you. I think we've got time for one more question here. This one is from Stefan Nilsson. He's asking, how can GEOSS infrastructure stay in the forefront and keep pace with rapid technical evolution and not be overrun by other and better solutions and run the risk of becoming obsolete? Stefano?
Yeah, thank you. This is an easy question, let's say. No, indeed. I mean, you touch a really key point, of course, for GEOSS, but let me say for any, you know, for any system, and in particular, these complex system of systems or a super system. I mean, here, my general answer is that you must develop something which is viable. You know, this term viable, what does it mean? It means that it must, you know, survive the many changes. And here changes are coming from policy, economy, social, you know, etc. But in particular, you know, technology. And today we are talking about, you know, technology. And this is why I stress this concept to move from, well, let me say, but in a positive way, a bit stiff federated system where changes are not so simple, because you have every time to, you know, redefine the common of federal models into something which is more flexible and more viable, which is a digital ecosystem. There are two major benefits. One, it is that, you know, it is less, let's say, formal at the implementation level. You must define these common goals, these common principles. So still formal agreements, but not implementation, you know, stiff artifacts. And the other benefit is that this digital ecosystem is open. So let's say you have a new, you know, technological platform which is going to be popular. You can, you know, try to engage with it and to, you know, and to push it to be part as a constituent part of this digital. And the point here is that you keep them, you can, you know, ensure that these new enterprise system remain autonomous. So they don't have to change. They keep also their business model, you know. So these are the two major benefits here that make us consider to move from a federal to a digital ecosystem approach.
Thanks. Joost, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think that what Stefano mentioned again is very important. I think we should see it as well in a context. GEOSS is a system of systems. So what I'm trying to say actually is that we are connecting systems with each other, and of course we are as well providing access to the users, and the users could be other systems, but it could as well be human users. Anyway, what we let's say aim at doing is of course benefiting as well from what the different systems make available themselves as well in terms of technology. So I think that we should really let's say always stay open for new let's say technologies that are being made available or used within the systems that we're connecting to. It doesn't mean that we do not need to look as well at a base of technology for, let's say, providing, let's say, these connections between the systems of systems. But yes, we shall be open, of course, to new technological developments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and conclude the session then. Thank you again, Stefano and Joost, for your presentations, and thank you to all of you for your active participation and the questions. It's been a very informative session, so thanks again, and see you on the next spotlight or the next plenary.